A traumatic childhood, violent teenage years which almost led to homicide, and an MMA career that has so far been a roller coaster ride. Sean Strickland's journey from a so-called bigot with CTE to becoming everyone's favorite prize fighter has pleasantly surprised the big dogs.
I love the support he's getting. It's great.
So how has Strickland become the fastest growing fighter in popularity within the past year? Well, firstly, he's one of the funniest fighters in the UFC.
People that wear sunglasses inside are a bunch of assholes. I mean, I think that should be known. All you UFC fighters that wear if you're a UFC fighter and you wear sunglasses inside, you are the definition of a I don't like to put big black things in my face like this, but we'll make it happen.
I feel like you're used to it.
I think you're used to it. Anyways, Shisha, how do you think she got the John Jones interview?
But most recently, a lot of people are backing Strickland over an interaction he had with a reporter prior to his UFC title defense at UFC 297 against Dricus Du Plessis. The interaction went viral online after the reporter tried to grill Strickland for a tweet he made a few years back that said, "If I had a gay son, I would think I failed as a man to create such weakness." And after the reporter tried to call him out, Strickland wasn't having any of it.
I did want to ask you about something you wrote a couple of years ago. You said, if I had a gay son, I would think I...
Oh, look, another, I'm saying to you, the swamp, you guys, the swamp.
You become a champion, you become a star, and someone says...
Let me ask you something. Are you gay?
Have you had the chance to interact with a more diverse
Are you, let me know, are you gay?
Can I get an answer?
Well, no, I'm asking, this is a part of, are you a gay man?
I'm an ally of the community.
Okay. If you had a son and he was like, you had a son, he was gay, you'd be like, oh man, you don't want a grandkid?
No problem with it.
Oh man, well, dude, you're a weak fucking man, dude. You're part of the fucking problem. You elected Justin Trudeau. Like, when he sees the bank accounts, like, you're just pathetic. And the fact that you have no fucking backbone, and has he shut down your fucking country and seized bank accounts? You ask me some stupid shit like that, go fuck yourself. Move the fuck on, man.
And although he did receive some backlash, Strickland gained a lot of new fans for standing up for himself, and despite putting the UFC under pressure, even Dana White had Sean's back.
I don't give anybody a leash.
Well, I'm saying you...
A leash?
I'm like...
Free speech. Gonna control what people say. Gonna tell people what to believe. Gonna tell people... can tell any other human being what to say, what to think, and there's no leashes.
Now, before all of this went down, Strickland's name was already gaining a lot of buzz from his surprise title fight against Israel Adesanya back at UFC 293. Sean was actually called up as a replacement for Dricus Du Plessis in the fight, and even though he had less than 2 months to prepare, he couldn't care less because...
I mean, we all fight for money, man. I mean, like, if the dollar is right, I will do it, man. I will do it.
The money was more than right, and Strickland made a few extra dollars by setting the stage on fire during the pre-fight presses.
Hey, you know what? You know what, man? The moment I post a video of me jerking off my fucking dog, then we'll put some credibility to that. Fucking puppy porn, man. I had to double check that shit just to make sure it was legit.
For context, Strickland was talking about the viral video of Israel Adesanya touching his dog inappropriately, but that wasn't it. Strickland also mocked Izzy for his love for a special kind of anime.
Wait, what happened before we walked on stage? I smacked you on the ass like my bitch.
Bro, no man that beats off the cartoons is gonna beat me.
While Strickland was pretty much a villain before he faced off against Adesanya, he gained a ton of fans for constantly roasting Izzy, who had a bigger share of critics due to his past antics, like making jokes about the September 11 attacks.
I'll touch him enough times. And eventually he'll crumble like the Twin Towers.
As merciless as Strickland was outside of the cage, he was far worse for Izzy inside of it, as he battered the champion and shocked the world by winning the title.
Am I dreaming? Am I gonna wake up? Somebody hit me. Oh my God, you guys. Literally, bro, never in a million years would I thought I'd be here, man.
With the championship belt wrapped around his waist, Strickland was in the spotlight every day of the week, and that helped people realize that he wasn't a bad person. He was simply a misunderstood guy who was still battling his childhood demons. Because shortly after winning the belt, Strickland appeared on YouTuber and comedian Theo Von's podcast, where he opened up about his traumatic past.
We don't have to talk, man. I can just sit here with you for a minute. I can just sit here. We can just sit here.
Nah, it's all good, dude. 6 seconds, just process it.
And after his appearance on the podcast, MMA fans only started to love Strickland more. Being able to show his vulnerable side about his traumatic past gained a lot of people's respect, and many people were even able to relate. Strickland has revealed in the past that he was born and raised in a broken home, where his alcoholic father's abusive nature made his early childhood a living hell.
Did he physically abuse you?
No, it was like a lot of like psychological shit. Like my dad was like nuts.
Sometimes Strickland's able to joke about it.
You guys need to get hit by your dads a little bit more. Not even hit, not discipline. You guys don't need to be like, I didn't take out the trash, hit. You guys need to get like an alcoholic rage beating, and then you'll start fucking learning how to have, nuts.
But since violence breeds violence, Strickland found himself stuck with a very dark mindset as a teenager, which led him into having some very controversial beliefs that would eventually result in him getting kicked out of school.
I actually went through like this weird like neo-Nazi white supremacist phase when I was younger. I got kicked out of school for like hate crimes and like all this crazy shit. But
the American was definitely treading a dangerous trail, and if it wasn't for his mum introducing him to mixed martial arts when he was 15 years old, he'd probably be painting his future behind bars.
My mom took me to Empire MMA with a guy named Paul Herrera, and like I loved it. I remember like crying, like after I got done sparring, like I even know when I think about it, it makes my eyes water. Just like I don't think I ever really experienced happiness until that day.
Fast forward to 2008, Strickland made a successful start to his MMA career by submitting his first professional opponent within 2 rounds, before running through competition to boast a 13-0 record over the next 5 years. In 2013, Strickland signed with the UFC and competed at welterweight, where he won 7 out of his first 10 fights, with losses at the hands of Santiago Ponzinibbio, Kamaru Usman, and Eliseu Zaleski dos Santos. But little did Strickland know that not only his career, but his whole life would soon be put in jeopardy, because in 2018, Strickland's wheels of fortune turned for the worse in the shape of a serious motorcycle accident that happened whilst riding home from a training session. Strickland collided into a van and was left unconscious for hours, suffering a torn patella tendon that also separated from his knee, as well as a torn quadriceps. After undergoing emergency surgery, doctors told him that he would never compete in MMA professionally ever again.
Whenever I first had my accident, I had a lot of doctors. Every doctor I spoke to was telling me that, hey, you can fight for sure, but you probably shouldn't fight. So the hardest thing was just kind of telling these doctors to shut up, like you don't know what I can or can't do.
Being the tough guy that he is, Strickland patiently waited for his broken bones to heal before quickly making his return to the UFC just 2 years after the life-altering accident. Now as a middleweight, Strickland's 2020 return was successful as he defeated Jack Marshman via unanimous decision.
I think that we as a sport overlook how mentally tough Sean Strickland is.
Now imagine you return from a 2-year layoff from a career-threatening injury and win a fight. What do? Probably rest and chill with friends and family, right? Well, not if you're Sean Strickland, because just 5 weeks after beating Marshman, Tarzan stepped in on short notice and decimated Brandon Allen, who still hasn't recovered from the beating.
I know in my heart I'm better, and I think he does too.
Anyway, Strickland's string of victories continued against Krzysztof Jotko, Uriah Hall, and Jack Hermanson. At that point in time, Strickland was starting to make a name for himself as one of the division's top contenders, and many in his position would have sat around and waited for a big fight. But when the UFC asked him to fight Alex Pereira so the promotion could fast-track the Brazilian to a title shot, Strickland happily obliged and got knocked out. In his next fight, Strickland suffered another loss to Jared Cannonier, but even that didn't stop him from accepting a short-notice, high-risk, and low-reward fight against Nasruddin Imavov, who the American dominated with his fist of fury. At this point, Strickland had a very impressive record of 26 wins and just 5 losses, but it wasn't only his record that was catching fans' attention. It was some of the brutally honest things he was saying, and after taking out Imavov, he landed some stinging post-fight verbal jabs and hooks.
I'm not gonna try to say that name, man. Let's just call him the Frenchie. The Frenchie. And if we learned anything about the French, what are the French best at? Giving up.
In his next fight, he once again accepted a fight against an up-and-coming prospect in the form of Dagestani German Abus Magomedov, and prior to the fight, he made a few unfiltered remarks about various subjects. First, he aimed barbs at his opponent and his countrymen.
All these stupid fucking Germans, bro. After they gave away their fucking country, bunch of losers. So these stupid Germans, they're always posting like German flags on my shit. Like, I'm like, you motherfuckers understand, this man ain't German.
Then he ruffled a few more feathers by offering his 2 cents on random topics.
We need to go back to like taking women out of the workforce. And maybe that's where we up, you guys.
Strickland eventually turned his guns towards Israel Adesanya, taking a jab at Izzy, representing China in his early kickboxing days.
It's kind of embarrassing that the Dricus gets, a potential shot, but Izzy, the Chinese, the true Chinese, they probably want to bring a real African back to the championship.
Strickland's fiery press conference caused a stir on social media, yet he didn't lose sight of his goal. He went out there and beat the brakes off Nurmagomedov. And after then being called up to face Israel Adesanya at UFC 293 for the middleweight title and successfully taking the crown, it was just as quickly taken after he lost it in his first title defense against Dricus Du Plessis at UFC 297. But regardless, Strickland respects his opponents in victory and in defeat.
I called it. From the day one, it was going to be a war.
And most importantly, he appreciates MMA fans way more than any other top fighter on the planet.
This is my first press conference. You guys are a bunch of vicious bastards. Man, here's the way you guys talk. I want to go down there and punch all you f***ers in the face. Jesus Christ, you guys are mean.
He is the people's champion. Like, he really is that guy.
Jamie, that's for you, buddy.
Like, I've never seen Sean say no to a fan. They motivate him too, and they help him get to where he is. And it's like, you don't see that a lot.
And that is exactly why Sean Strickland is becoming the new fans' favorite of the UFC. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and check out another one here.